This is a one-speaker meeting. Please welcome our speaker tonight, Abby.
Okay. Hi, I'm Abby Britton. I'm an alcoholic. Hi, Abby. Wow, how'd we all get here? You know what? I don't remember. Actually, I was in a blackout, and I got picked up by the scruff of my neck. I think of it as the teeth of God picked me up and threw me into Clare Foundation. I was on a plane going to New York, and apparently I was spewing vomit in first class, and they stopped the plane and hauled my ass off. Okay. If you have a problem with God, get over it, because I'm going to talk a lot about God, because God was the only thing that could get me sober, a huge act of divine providence. I suffer from the disease of alcoholism, which kills 9 out of 10 of us. That's the latest statistic. And right now I have the... Okay, stop. Thank you for the newcomers, chip takers, Christian... cake takers, amazing. You know, I felt like hell when I got here. I couldn't believe it when I got 60 days. I could not. It was just like, what? How did this happen? And, you know, I really hate it today when people stand up here and go, I don't know how this happened. It was a miracle. You know, because it's not really a miracle. It's in the big book, which I consider a mystical text. Okay, also the 12 and 12, which I also consider a mystical text. One of the things that I do every morning when I get up is I open the big book or the 12 and 12 to any page and read it, because I'm in a constant dialogue with God. I mean, I'm constantly listening. What the hell am I supposed to do here? And when I first got into this program, I was taught to get up in the morning and say, okay, God, it's on you, and if you fuck it up, it's your problem. Okay, but it was all on him, so I had a real easy sense about that. I got sober in 1978 in New York. In those days, the meetings were chair-throwing meetings, biting people in the crotch meetings. It was just totally crazy. A lot of time in New York, and that time was maybe 5 years. And I actually did the steps with a sponsor, which is quite amazing, because it didn't seem like people did a lot of steps. Let's see. You know, today I'm in this really lucky spot. I have 4 brand new sponsees fresh out of the toaster. And, you know, they're all in hell, and I totally get it. I totally get it. Because even in sobriety, I feel that same hell. And one of the things that I do, and back to this, the reason I do this, I'll get back to that later. You can see I'm very linear. One of the things I do with my sponsees, and I have a purpose for doing this, is I make them go on the internet or whatever they can do and research what the disease of alcoholism is. Because even today, alcoholics are put into institutions. Okay, the treatment of alcoholics is still so archaic, but it's also really high. It's high in these programs, because these programs, it's like that direct thing to God, you know? I mean, that's the medication, direct to God. The institutions don't help us. We all know that, you know. It's the direct thing to God. That's the only thing that keeps us sober. Okay? And so today, I thought, well, I'm making them do all of this stuff. I really have to do it as well, so I don't sound like a moron when I talk to them, and because I really hate that. You know, it's all about the wonder of me. And so today, I was on the internet looking up alcoholism, and apparently Bill and Bob were right. But what's fascinating is that they did not know the science they have today, but they knew the treatment. Okay, so proof of God, evidence of God, right? They knew. And so what it said, the National Institute of Chemical Dependency, is this. Alcoholism is a brain disease. That's the new concept. It's a brain disease, okay? It's not behavior. It's a brain disease. We are missing the chemistry that normal people have, okay? Serotonin, dopamine, all of that stuff. Look it up on the internet. It also says that they are considering changing the name of the disease, okay? I'm thinking maybe I'll submit something like rush brain. This is something I decided I had when I first got sober. I realized I had rush brain. That's my description of the disease that we all have, rush brain. Okay? I have a sponsee who right now has an ankle bracelet around her foot. We all know why. It's one of those big ones. And she's very busy planning how in 6 months she's going to go to the judge and explain to him why she only needs to have it on in 6 months. And I'm like, great, go do it. She's got rush brain. This is what she thinks about. So anyway, they're thinking about changing the name of the disease, okay, which might be good, all right? And then I have no opinion on outside issues. This is an outside issue, but let's think about this for a minute because it goes back to Bill and Bob, or maybe we shouldn't think about it. It also says that there is no distinction. They've discovered there's really no distinction between the brain disease, the chemistry of the brain disease, between an alcoholic and an addict. So the good news is we're all one in here, okay? It don't matter what you used if you were using. Okay, back to Bill and Bob. And this new science. The crazy thing about this new science, which I love, is that it says that the nature of this disease, because we have broken brain chemistry, faulty brain chemistry, is that we don't know that we have a disease. Okay, so that when my sponsee is telling me about fixing her ankle bracelet, what she doesn't understand is what she's saying to me, what she's doing is using. Okay? What she's doing is using. When I'm in my rush brain, what I'm doing is using. I am going to open my big book and read you one of my favorite passages in the big book, which is this. It's on page 24, and there is a solution. Notice it doesn't say there is a problem. It says there is a solution. Okay, I take that really seriously. When I first came into these rooms, I was so confused about all the stuff and the words that I just went to the chapter headings, and it was such a relief to me to read those four words. There is a solution, okay? And then later on, I read into action and how it worked. I really had to keep it really, really simple. Those words I couldn't change, like I changed that word moral a lot in the inventory. And then my boyfriend, who I'm not supposed to talk about, but I will anyway, when we were wrong, we talk about that word, we promptly admitted it, and we say when we were wrong, probably admitted it. I'm an editor. I've been an editor my whole life, whatever. Okay, so page 24. What it says, and I'm going to read straight from the book, okay? It says, page 24, when this sort of thinking is fully established in an individual with alcoholic tendencies, he has probably placed himself beyond human aid, and unless locked up, may die or go permanently insane. The thing that strikes me about that paragraph is that it does not say when this sort of drinking is fully established in an individual with alcoholic tendencies. It says when this sort of thinking is established. So, and then later on it says the main problem of the alcoholic, this says this as well in the big book, is centered in his mind. Okay, this is a serious problem. Has anyone else thought about this? Okay. I mean, my mind is how I solve problems. This is really serious. Okay, this is why I have a sponsor. Okay? Now, here's the bad news about me. At 14 years of recovery, I was in New York. I had a very busy, big, full, fabulous life. And I started thinking. No, seriously, it's not funny. It was awful. I started thinking, and I got really, really depressed. I mean, really depressed. That kind of depression that I know no one in this room can identify with. That hopeless, black depression that comes upon us for no apparent reason. Usually for me, it's right when I get up in the morning. And then I have to reorient myself by reading and calling about, at least 4 or 5 other alcoholics and saying, help me, can you help me? Because this is just awful. Okay? It's a we program. Exactly. It's a we program. So anyway, at 14 years of sobriety, and I make a very big distinction between sobriety and recovery. Okay, they're 2 very different states of being. I have a huge resentment against the Al-Anon people because in Al-Anon they say the only hope for the alcoholic is to stop drinking. And I say to the Al-Anons, if I stop drinking, I'm fucked. Okay? If I stop drinking and have a program, I'm doing really, really well. Okay, but that's not what they say. Never mind, that's crosstalk. To another meeting. Okay, so I started thinking at 14 years of recovery, and I realized that I was just in this insane, hopeless black depression. I had 2 little children, a really good marriage. I had a great job in New York City, and I was so depressed I could barely move. And I thought, oh, okay, I'm going to go to therapy, all right? There's also a line in the big book which talks about, how much more time do I have, like 3 more hours? Yeah. Okay.
You have until 5 up, and I'll let you know.
Okay. You'll just hook me. Okay. I'm just trying to think. Okay, never mind. So I thought, okay, I'm going to go to therapy. And I had actually had, when I first got out of the institution, the first institution in New York City, when I had been mandated to see a shrink 5 days a week, of course. Of course, what else were they going to do with me? Go to AA meetings for a year. I was on antabuse for a year, and I was just nuts. And, I'm really calm now, the truth of the matter is. But so I thought at 14 years, okay, I'm going to go back to that guy and see what we missed, okay? So I went. And there's that line in the big book that says, those poor therapists, because what we do is lie. Now, I don't really consider it lying. What I consider it is my broken brain. I have a storytelling disease. This is what happens to me. I have a storytelling disease. And I really believe that the things that I think are real. Again, we're screwed. Okay? But not so screwed if we're in recovery. If we have a sponsor who we run our ideas about taking the bracelet off our ankle by. Not so screwed if we open the big book or the 12 and 12 first thing in the morning and get that bomb of the words. Words are very powerful. They're shamanistic. Okay? I'm very careful about the words I say to other people in this program and in my life. Okay, because words have power. So here I am in therapy, and I'm just getting worse and worse and worse. Okay, worse and worse and worse and worse. Okay, I'm going to back up a little bit again. I grew up in an alcoholic family. Okay, my dad was a child rapist. There were 9 of us. He raped every single one of us before we were 2. Okay, this was his MO. He married many, many women and had lots and lots of children, would rape them all, and then leave and go off to other children. That's why I recently had a hip replacement. I finally got that done. I walked with a limp my whole life because of my dad. My dad was a putrid alcoholic. Okay? It's just what we do. You know? It's what we do. 9 out of 10 of us are killed, you know, and the truth of the matter is a lot of the people who are killed as a result of alcoholism are not even the alcoholics, you know. In fact, we're lucky if it's us, because usually it's us who want to die. And so my dad died when I was 15, and that was when my alcoholism just blossomed. I also grew up with a fabulous Auntie Lane, who my mom is in she's an actress, and she was on the road quite a lot. So I lived with my fabulous Auntie Lane and Uncle Danny, and Auntie Lane was one of those fabulous alcoholics. She was not a rapist. Okay, we are very different types of alcoholics. Okay, and she would change for every occasion, going to the mailbox downtown, you know, fabulous Poochie outfits, big earrings. She drove a big gold Cadillac. I loved her. I just loved her. She was so much fun, and when she smoked a cigarette, she smoked the whole thing down in one puff. You know, it was amazing. I just loved her. She was so great. And, you know, I was a fixer-upper kid. You know, I lived with her, and then I lived with I lived with like 6 different families before I was 6, although I had a very stable upbringing and a very exciting one. Anyway, so I grew up with that, and she made me think drinking was really fabulous. And she actually taught me how to drink. I learned how to drink from my Auntie Lane. And so anyway, here I am at 14 years sobriety, and I realized I was totally screwed because I was hopelessly depressed. I had 2 little children. I was working my ass off, and I just didn't know what to do. And I started going back to meetings because, P.S., I'd stopped going to meetings, okay? I'd stopped going to meetings. I remember at 14 years, I was in a meeting in Massachusetts on my 14th birthday, and I didn't even know it was my 14th birthday, okay? So when I came back after my relapse at 18 years, people said to me, well, what happened in a nutshell? You know, at that point I couldn't figure it out because I was so gone. Trust me, you know, you go out after a long period of time, you're screwed. I mean, the brain chemistry is so bad at that point. So when I came back, it took me a long time to realize really what had happened was I'd stopped going to meetings regularly. And you know, when you stop going to meetings, you stop practicing the program. Okay, and you stop running the ankle bracelet plan by your sponsor or anyone else. You know, and you no longer have your people, your tribe, you know, to say, dude, you know, come on. So at 14, I picked up the first thing. And, you know, at 18, I picked up the drink, and I couldn't get back. I really couldn't get back. And my sister, thank God, is an Al-Anon. My sister saved my ass, you know, in that program I resent. You know, she came to me one day and she said, Ab, you know, you're gone. And I said, I know, I'm going to die. I'm going to die. And, you know, I knew I was going to die because I used to go to these women's meetings and I'd be drunk on my fucking ass, pardon me. And I would stand up and share, you know, when people would say, oh, no, you can't share. I was like, whatever. You know, I'm going to tell it like it is because I had so much time. Time is not a tool of the program. Okay? I really thought, this is how sick I am, I really thought when I got back here that I chose to pick up a drink. Okay? And I remember telling Mickey Bush, does anyone here know Mickey Bush? Okay, yeah, okay. You can just imagine. I saying to Mickey Bush, I had like 60 days back in, which was a total miracle. I mean, a total miracle. I had 60 days. I know how it feels, just totally incredibly amazing to have that much time. And I said to Mickey Bush on the phone, you know, he said, what happened? I said, well, I chose to pick up, and I heard click. So I called him back, and I said, well, the phone went dead. He said, the phone didn't fucking go dead. I fucking hung up on you. And I said, well, why'd you do that? He said, you're an idiot. I said, why? He said, you don't have a choice about drinking. You do not have a choice. And that's when I really began to understand what alcoholism is, okay? I'm living in a system that makes it impossible for me to choose whether or not to pick up a drink. And the only thing that I have, that big wall that I have between me and that drink, is you guys, the steps for sure, God for sure, that big telephone to God, and the big book, and my sponsor, and my sponsees. You know, today my very primary purpose is to stay sober and help another alcoholic achieve sobriety. I have a really big job. I could give a shit, frankly, you know. My most important life thing is to work with other alcoholics on a daily basis. It's so rich to me. It's such an incredibly rich experience. You know, what happened was I started going back to meetings at around 16 years, and I couldn't hear it, okay? And around 16 years, I'd had a checkup because I was feeling really lousy. I just couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. You know, and I was in therapy for the whole dad fiasco. Oh my God, you can imagine. You know, you can imagine going through that, all that memory return without the aid of the steps and recovery and all you guys. It would have been so much easier because you know what? We can go through anything together. I could have sat in anyone's lap and sobbed. I didn't have that when I was going through that memory return. How I robbed myself. We get through fucking anything together. Anything, you know? This disease makes grown men weak, and I consider myself a grown man, you know? I really do. I consider myself a football player at 5'2". But, you know, so I can't remember where I was, so I'll skip to something else. No, actually, that's not true. Thank you. You know, God fixes my brain. I do a lot of sitting and meditating. I actually teach yoga now to alcoholics, which I love, because you can see people, you can see the alcoholics in the class just come in and get. You know, why do we think that this much of our body is a solution? And why would alcoholics think that this much of a broken part of the body is a solution? Crazy. So here I am at 16 years and I'm not feeling so good, and I go to have a checkup. I'm so proud of myself, you know, because I'm mom of little kids and I never take care of myself. And so I go have this checkup, and the doctor does all the blood tests and the EKGs, and who knew my heart's in backwards. But actually that was later, I lied. But, you know, that's the kind of thing. I didn't know I had a backwards heart, okay? I never took care of myself in the way I needed to. So anyway, I go to the doctor. He says, gee, you're fine. And like 2 weeks later, he calls me. Now, you know, it's around 16 years. He calls me up and he goes, Abby, you know, and this is just a great doctor, you know, local Brooklyn doctor. And he says, you know, your liver is enlarged. Have you been drinking? And I say, nope, haven't had a drink in 16 years, you know, still very proud, without any, you know, I'm in the 16 years worth of recovery, not, of sobriety, not marred by any recovery whatsoever. You know, I'm totally what we call dry. which to me is just a euphemism for psychotic and blaming. I'm serious. It's so true. So, which my boyfriend would also say sometimes I'm like today, but that's okay. Very short periods of time. Anyway, so he says, I'm worried your liver's enlarged. And I say, well, that's weird because I haven't had a drink in a good, 14, 16 years. And he goes, well, you look like an acute alcoholic. Okay, and what I realized was that without benefit of recovery, the bombing effect, the brain chemistry changing effect of prayer, meditation, steps, working with another alcoholic, without that effect, I was in acute alcoholism. Now, the Big Book talks about this in We Agnostics. It talks about, I recommend that chapter highly. It talks about the bedevilments. Okay, it talks about an inability to maintain and sustain relationships. It talks about just feeling depressed all the time. It talks about an inability to show up in truth, constant fear about our finances, the bedevilments of the disease. Okay. I want to tell you that in recovery I have made in 1 year $186,000, and then another year I made $11,000. I was terrified both times. The money had nothing to do with it. Nothing to do with it. Okay? It's my system in here. It's my acute alcoholism. Without the benefit of these steps and these rooms, right in the fucking middle of these rooms, okay, acute alcoholism occurs, okay? And the longer we go without a drink, the other thing they were saying in this stuff I was reading today was that alcoholism is a stress disease. That's, like, duh. Duh. They didn't say, though, it's a happy disease, too. I drink when I'm happy. I drink when I'm stressed. I just love to drink, love to drink, love to smoke. Started with the pizza, went to the cigarettes, then to the alcohol, pot, speed, and that was from 6 years old, 9 years old, 10 years old, 12 years old. That was my chain of events. So acute alcoholism occurs when we don't practice these things. The latest science is that acts of service to other people create the brain chemistry that we don't have, creates serotonin and dopamine. Okay, that's out of Harvard. Okay, that's not Abby, all right? Seriously. Okay, it also says that meditation creates serotonin and dopamine. It also says that chicken and turkey. Okay? Food. Okay? It also says that physical exercise helps us create this. Because what happens when we have a stressful situation because we don't create serotonin and dopamine is that we start producing adrenaline. Okay? And there's no resolve. So in the animal kingdom, what we do when we produce adrenaline and there's no resolve is we either rip your throat out or we run. Okay? Those are my solutions without the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. Okay? That's natural. Okay? If I'm not making the calming chemicals, which I really don't naturally, I'm an alcoholic or addict, or I have rush brain, I'm not making them, I'm going to either run or rip your throat out. So I want to say that today I have 7.5 years recovery, which is not a miracle, okay? My first 60 days, I was on my knees every single day. Okay, I got a sponsor immediately. And I got a sponsor because I didn't want to stay sober for myself, My whole idea was to get a little bit sober and then to drink again. This was my idea. And I got a sponsor immediately. She said, why do you want to stay sober? And I said, because I don't want to fucking kill my kids. Okay? Because I was driving drunk with my kids in the car. Any mothers here, I know the living amends that we make to our children. Okay? I broke into houses with my children, okay? Living amends. I make a living amends today. So immediately I got a sponsor because she said to me, you're going to die, okay? And why do you want to stay sober? Okay? And when I said it for my kid, she said, fine. She wasn't one of these people who said, you have to get sober for yourself. Well, what do I give a shit about myself? You know? I was killing myself. Okay? I started practicing the steps immediately. The first time I did my fifth step with my sponsor, I went to her house. There was a drunk person there. I didn't get to do it. I don't even remember if I did it. But then I got another sponsor later, and I did it again. I just kept plugging away. You know, and also what I have learned in this program is if you show up and do the work, this is what happened to me. Thank you. I was coming to meetings desperate to get the program. I was so desperate. I would like go to people and say, can you help me? You know, and what I realized was that drunk or sober, what I did was I kept coming to meetings and showing up and asking for help. And what finally happened was the program worked on me. You know, we do this stuff without knowing why. You know, because our brains are broken and we can't hear. You know, I say to you, I need to take the ankle bracelet off. And then you say to me, why don't you go to a meeting? I don't understand how that's going to help. But today I do. And that's all I got. Thank you.
I'd like to thank Maggie for Chapter 5 and John for the 12 traditions. Are there any secretary's announcements?
Robert Alcoholic. Hello, family. I'm so stoked. I'm so stoked. Abby, I think I love you. Let's thank Abby for speaking tonight. And we have some additional announcements and stuff, so I'm going to try to hustle along. Let's thank Maya for leading a great meeting. Newcomers, Michael Alcoholic. Michael. We had Keith, Razon, Annie, Joshua, Dallas, Randy, Mike, Bob, Amanda, Lee, Alan, Ray, Bob, Mario, and Gino. That's brilliant. I can barely ever hear the names. I see people just walk by and they go like, hi, and he's writing down a name right next to me. I was sitting right next to him. How did he hear that? For 30 days, we had Carlos and Juan. 60 days, Melissa. 90 days, Jack. Hell of good Jack. 6 months, Melissa and Bob. 9 months, Michael. And our birthday folks, Christian, Brandon, and Jill. If everyone who have commitments to this meeting would stand and state your name, purpose, and intention. Hey, Keith. Patty. Party. Hey, Linda. Thanks, Vivian.
I'm Brian. I'm an alcoholic. I'll be signing your cards at the podium after the meeting.
I'm Brian.
Mary, alcoholic reader.
Mary.
Brian, alcoholic in your coffee.
Ryan.
You just clean around your area, help you guys in the clean up your graves. Thanks.
Cool.
I'm Alan. I'm an alcoholic. I'm a goddamn happy.
Alan.
Okay.
That's a commitment. Hurtling along.
Alcoholic, drinking the water.
Mary.
My name's Mike. I'm alcoholic. I do the literature at the meeting?
Mike.
I have softbound literature in the back that's free, and I have big books and 12 and 12s and a bunch of other stuff up there. If you come back, take a look if you need anything, and have a good week. Thank you.
Maya, I bring the food.
Maya.
I'm Jim, an alcoholic.
Hi, Jim.
Jim.
And it will be my pleasure tonight to fill in for Paris for your cleanup crew. We learned tonight that being of service helps us to get out of ourselves, raise those serotonin levels. So, so if anyone would like to participate in their own sobriety, help out, I'd like 4 volunteers, please. Anyone? There we go. We got
There's
one.
one,
There's
two.
2, 3.
One more.
One more. Come on. Feel good. Promise. Everybody. All right, we'll do the rest. Thank you.
I'm Leslie, alcoholic Steve Saver.
Leslie.
William, alcoholic. I'm filling in for Jay. Hospitals and institutions is that area of Alcoholics Anonymous which takes panels into places where people can't get out. Jail, psych wards. We collect money at this meeting and take literature into these places so that when the people get out, they know where to come. Thank you for letting me be of service.
Thank you. Any AA-related announcements, Dave?
Oh, I recorded this meeting. If you'd like a CD of tonight's talk or any of the previous talks, come see me afterwards and I'll make some next week. Thank you.
Swell. John?
Yeah, my name is John, alcoholic.
Hey, John.
And coming up is Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, otherwise known as the Bermuda Triangle for alcoholics. And what we have are marathons during these periods of time. So, we are gathering everybody together. Last year, everybody came and brought their own food, favorite dishes, all this kind of stuff. It's kind of a good family sort of thing to do. But also what we need to do is we need to pay the rent, take care of extraneous stuff like, beverages and all the other paper, whatever is needed to run the whole thing. So what I'm going to do is I'll place this up at the podium. And if you feel like dropping a shekel or 2 in there on your way out, that would be greatly appreciated. Let's make this marathon period a really great event for everybody. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Hey, Deb.
Jay's just.
Cool. That sounds like volunteering to participate. Thank you. Anything else?
Oh.
Yes.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm Abby. I'm alcoholic.
Hi, Abby.
Thursday nights at 7:30 and Saturday mornings at 7:30 a.m. There is yoga and an AA meeting at City Yoga. It's open to anyone in 12-step by donation only. You can call City Yoga and they'll give you information about it.
Wow.
CITY Yoga. Oh, Jack has flyers. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll turn it back over to our leader.
This has been a regular Wednesday night speaker meeting. Thank you for coming and keep coming back. Now, after a moment of silent meditation for the alcoholic who still suffers, would Will lead us in the Lord's Prayer? You have it?
Whose father? Our Father.